Eric the Turf Teacher Jones. Oh, yeah! Teaching you life lessons, business strategies, and leadership.
All right. So tonight's class, we're going to talk design process overview. Get you one technical credit. It is a good class. I like talking design work. I like doing landscape design. Now, necessarily do I want to, or not necessarily do I want to do design build? I think it's two separate entities. Like you need to have your design team and it needs to probably be its own separate LLC. And then you have your install. It's hard to do design build because as a design build contractor, me personally, the hardest thing to get from the client would be what?
Money.
The money. Yeah. What is the budget? You know, as a landscape architect or landscape designer, and that's all you do or strictly do, and if you do both, you had it separate. It they know that they're going to have to pay for it for one, because I have been stuck with the design, didn't get paid for, and I said that'd never happen again. So we changed all of that. But when you sit down and you talk with a client, that landscape architect or landscape designer can get the budget from the client. As a design build contractor, they're trying to, all right, so you're going to build it, yeah, we've only got like, 50,000 to put into this outdoor kitchen in the back, but technically they may have more because they're trying to get you to bring it down. And the landscape architect or landscape designer can only be fair to their client if they get that budget and design within their budget parameters. They're not doing themselves any justice and they're not doing their clients any justice if they design them a $100,000 backyard, outdoor kitchen, outdoor entertainment area when the client only has, let's say, $60,000. It's not going to be good. Nobody's going to be happy. So that designer can get the budget numbers a lot easier than the installer. And so we're going to talk that. We're going to talk the whole process through a landscape design, which can include as well irrigation design. And one thing that's really bothered me looking at a set of blueprints is there's no irrigation plan. They'll be like on the planting plan or another drawing, it'll say refer to irrigation contractor for the irrigation design. Landscape architects and designers are not designing these irrigation systems. They're leaving it up to the irrigation contractor, which is fine because the irrigation contractor knows how to do it correctly. But if I was full-time designing, that's extra money that I could get in my design package is a complete irrigation system. So none of them are doing that. And I'm thinking, we went over irrigation very quickly at the college, but it was very intense. Like, it was a month and a half of hard irrigation design in the junior studios. And so we done, a ton of irrigation plans, size and pipe, the whole 9 yards. We couldn't just put 1-inch pipe everywhere. We had to size down and, pick the correct nozzles and everything. So we learned it the correct way. And I'm wondering if they're even doing that in some of these design programs anymore. But
Eric,
sir,
it's the same thing as golf course.
Really?
The architect, we've built 3 golf courses and did 3 whatever we did 2 renovations and
yeah.
But when we built it, the architect, which is Tim Cates, he's done it all over Brunswick County and
yeah.
But no, you have to relied on getting quotes from Smith Turf
for the products and everything.
Well, for the design.
For the design of it, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because they don't design. Sorry.
So even the golf course architect is not doing the
No,
irrigation
sir.
design.
No, sir. No, sir. No,
He
sir.
he takes
And
the
he,
plans
Ah,
or lets you take the plans to Smith Turf or Site One to
well,
actually.
you have to get elevations and the whole plan. I mean, it's a little bit different on, because my license are not landscape for irrigation. It's for clean water and, but it's a totally different, I mean, the same thing, same principle. The architect, and he's got his landscape architect, but you just don't, no, they won't design it because they don't do capacity and flow calculations. I mean, you have to do that, and that's
Oh yeah,
what landscape contractors license number one needs to do. Even if you're coming out of a well or pump, you need to know the pressure and the flow.
yeah, oh yeah, 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 yeah. Especially if I mean, because you guys are building it and then you maintain it for them, didn't you? For your clients, you do the maintenance on the courses. A lot of them, don't you?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We did maintenance on three. Yes,
But,
sir. I had over 160 employees. Yes, sir.
wow,
Contracted.
wow. But
Miss
it's
it.
it's I don't to me coming from a design background, not seeing the landscape architects and seeing the landscape designers design it. Also, the one thing that I'm seeing with some of these design packages is we see a lot of pretty pictures drawn. We don't actually even see construction documents. We don't see the actual blueprints, as we call it, which, layman terms, anybody can read the blueprint and build it. We're not seeing site elevations. We're not seeing section elevations or anything like that. All we're getting are these pretty digital images from the designer. And that sells the job 100% to the clients. But I personally don't think it's doing the clients any justice because how can they get a fair price from a contractor that's going to give them a quote? If
Yeah, I
they're
agree with that because of like golf courses, area like landscape designer, should have elevations.
yeah,
Now, golf course designers do have elevations because they use good gracious. I'm super tired. We have benchmarks and it's all plotted out as far as the elevations and it's on the design of the way he wants to build a golf course. So we
yeah,
have the elevations of how deep the ponds are to whatever. So
exactly.
it should be on, if you're a landscape designer, you should have the elevations.
Yeah. But a lot of them are not doing
It comes from the engineers. I mean, if you got a plot plan on a plot of a landscape commercial job, it should have elevations. I mean,
yes.
they have to have elevation because of stormwater, because we do that too, or did
Yes.
stormwater curbing to everything. So you should have elevation.
And especially a project that you're doing, I'm sure there's engineers involved, start to finish. Whereas a residential landscape design, they're going to hire the landscape architect or landscape designer, and that's it. Um, and so a lot of the individuals that they go become a certified landscape designer through some of these organizations, and they may not even have a landscape architect license. They're doing the pretty pictures. They're using the software and creating these perspectives. Of course, it sells the jobs. The homeowners are like, yes, we're excited. We want to build this. But then when the homeowners take those drawings, those pretty pictures, and try to get a fair quote, and you got three landscape contractors bidding on the job, we're not able to bid apples for apples because we don't know how tall retaining walls are. They haven't specced out any kitchen equipment, anything like that. That's what would go into the construction document phase versus the actual design phase of the whole process.
And that's the same. It's just the same thing as like if you got a stormwater pond, can you on your landscape architect side, can you flow water on a hardscape to the stormwater pond? No, not in Brunswick County. You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to go to the curb.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you bought a lot on, but aren't you your credentials? Aren't you uh architect?
Yes, yes, yep. I went to North Carolina A&T State University for the Bachelor of Science Landscape Architecture. Did that right out of school. Worked with some landscape architects, part time as I worked with mom and dad's landscape contracting company. So experienced in all of it. I love design work. I love to do it. But again, I think it needs to be separate. Personally, I think it needs to be separate from the landscape contracting business. I'd much rather just turn it over to another designer. For one, I don't have the time to do it because I need to be with my guys in the field. Secondly, sitting down with homeowners, it's just a little tough for me to get that budget. I'd rather build it. And as to say, maybe we start offering more design services or design build, and bringing in another type designer that's got their own firm set up, possibly do that. But as far as actually going after it and promoting doing that type of work, I'm just not going to do it. Yeah, because you just need the table time. You need to be behind the CAD station or on the drawing table, and yes, there's good money in that, but I can't send my guys to go build something without me being able to run and check on them, and things of that nature. So it's two totally separate entities within the green industry. So I love it, but it's just time to kind of focus on what it is that's going good for us. So maybe hire a full-time designer to come in. Jennifer, we're engaged. We're getting married in June.
Congratulations.
We'll appreciate it. She's wanting to go back and get, her design degree. She's been in real estate, been a broker, she's been an insurance broker, hairstylist, and she's thinking, going back and learning design, either architecture or even landscape architecture. So any one of them would be able, as long as she can draw CADs and stuff like that, she'd be fine doing it. So I'd sketch it out and say, hey, babe, put it on, CAD for us. But I don't know. The doors are open, but man, I love being on job sites. That's where I'm the happiest. So sitting behind this, design table, drafting, it can get a little complicated knowing that I got 10 guys out there on this job, and they've got questions, and it just my time is eat up with them. So, but I do love it.
I do
So
too.
with this course, we're going to define the process and explain why it is critical in creating design solutions for a residential site. And I love that. We're the solution. We're people's problem solvers. When we do design, I like to even say that we're not necessarily their landscape designer. We're their problem solver. They've hired us because, for one, the problem is they don't like their backyard, or two, they've got drainage issues. They've got other problems that they're hiring us to solve. We will talk about the 6 major phases of the design process, and then we will name the 6 steps of the research and preparation phase of the design process and identify the activities that occur in each phase. So basically your site inventory and analysis, which is, the first thing that you have to do. The client calls, they're saying, hey, we'd like a landscape design from you guys, you've been referred highly from our neighbors down the street, or we've seen your work at other places, we would like to sit down and talk with you. Well, the next thing you got to do is your research part of the design phase, and it's called site inventory and analysis. We will list the 3 steps of the design phase of the design process and the activities that occur in each one of those steps. That is physically actually designing the project. Then we'll talk the 3 key aspects of preliminary design and how those affect the preparation of a preliminary site plan. Identify the 4 types of drawings that are prepared during the construction documentation phase of this process and what information is shown on each drawing. This is where the designers lack, whether it's a skill set or it's time, and they're doing as many drawings as they can, or having as many clients as possible, and they're not doing the full package. Most landscape designers and landscape architects that I have referred design over to, I'm getting quotes of around about $130 an hour is what people are charging to draw. And they're going to spend anywhere from like 12 to 15 hours on the project. To me, if somebody's doing $150,000 backyard, outdoor kitchen, hardscape, entertainment area, and turning the outside into basically livable space, as we like to call it, 15 hours is not enough. I mean, they can't do a complete site inventory and analysis. They can't meet with the clients long enough to figure out what problems that they do need to solve. It needs to, those hours need to increase. We will identify 2 reasons for preparing construction documents for a residential landscape project. And then the last of our objectives is list the 2 primary steps of the implementation phase of the design process and the activities occur in each step. This is your build phase. You're actually taking the project, the design, with the construction documentation and actually building the project. We'll identify 4 common activities that occur during the maintenance phase of the design process, and then identify key questions to ask during the evaluation phase of the design process. Now, a lot of really, really good LAs and landscape designers are going to revisit the site after completion right away to notice how everything looks. They're also going to visit it periodically. I would say probably within the first couple of years, maybe at a 5-year mark, and then once every year, or they may stretch it out a little bit. They want to make sure that their designs are actually still working. And what I say by that is, hey, did they plant some trees that maybe got too big close to the building? They want to check all this so that they know whether or not to mimic that design on a future project. They really care about the project. They care about the implementation, the build of it, and then they want to know what's going on during the maintenance phase.
Eric, may I ask you a question?
Yes, sir,
Sorry.
man. Yeah, Bo.
As a architect, do you have programs when you design? Does it specify, I mean, like gives you a estimate of what it takes to maintain that design for maintenance?
I mean, you can get like mulch quantities and stuff like that from the design software. You'll know exactly how many square feet of turf that's there.
But
So,
it gives, sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, you'll know your square footages and stuff, but as we know, um, and a lot of and I've seen a lot of firms, some of the larger firms, um, they'll give estimate quotes to their clients. They'll say it should for this amount of money, you should be able to maintain this property, which will include, an additional mulch. The second year you'll want to, mulch or pine straw at least twice a year. You have X amount of square feet of turf. Typically, this is what people are going to charge per square foot to mow, this square foot for, fertility apps and, plugging in seed. And so they have a rough idea. But we all know that there's people that's going to come in and undercut it. So
But most HOA contractors that are in business for the HOA on a new development site, they will get that estimate from the landscape architect.
yes, yeah, yep,
That's not distributed to the landscaper,
yeah,
so it gives a kind of broad estimate. Is that correct?
exactly. Yes, yes.
That's what my question was.
And a lot of these LAs are offering a service what they call construction management. So they're there during the build phase of the project. They're making sure that, hey, if they've specified 2-inch caliber trees, they're out there measuring. If they've said, minimum 36-inch on a shrub, they're out there tape measuring it, and then they'll pull strings and tapes on the plants to make sure they're in the exact location. And then like you said, they'll offer this maintenance schedule that they think needs to happen, and give the client a ballpark figure of what this maintenance will cost. Um, but as
Which
you
is
know,
not shared to the landscape contractor.
it's what?
Shouldn't it shouldn't be shared. That price shouldn't be shared with the
No,
landscape contractor.
no,
Now,
no.
if they designed it and they signed off on it, that's when the tape measure comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, juror license. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
the what?
Protect your license to
Oh,
make sure
yes.
the landscape contractor installs landscape architect's design.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
yeah,
Protect you.
yes, yep.
Okay.
And that's
Thank you.
why those LAs will be on site, making sure that their projects are getting built to the way that they designed it. And it's also one way for them to get extra funds from the project when they offer that construction management service. Because a good landscape architect wants to have a good landscape design for their client, and they want to make sure that it's going to keep looking good year after year, versus a one and done install, and then they just kind of let it go by the wayside when it comes to landscape maintenance.
Eric, another question. As a landscape contractor, do the do you get the um kind of the amount of money they want to spend as the architect?
No, as a landscape contractor,
No, I'm talking about as the architect. Okay,
yeah,
I want to spend X amount of money, and then you design that plan per
yeah,
that money.
yeah,
Is that
exactly.
correct?
And if I was going into design, like strictly design for a client, and then they're gonna, sub it out to a different landscape contractor, I would be like, all right, I need to know how much money you have. If you've only got $20,000 and you're wanting a swimming pool and an outdoor kitchen in the back, we're not going to be able to do that for you. And I'm not going to spend all this time drawing, and you get upset with me as the designer because y'all can't afford it. You know, you have X amount of dollars to put into this backyard. As a designer, I should be able to get them really close to, let's say, $50,000 if they have $50,000. And if they tell me they only have $50,000, I'm not going to go in there and design $100,000 project, because it makes me look bad, makes the work look bad. The customer's not happy. They're not happy at all. So we just kind of, you got to tell us what your numbers are. You got to tell us. But they'll never tell the landscape contractor because they want to see if they can get it below their budget. If you tell some of these landscapers, hey, I got $75,000 to put in my backyard, that landscaper's going to spend $75,000. They're looking at, hey, if I can get by with spending, 71,000, I've got 4,000 that I can put towards the beach house, or, going to the beach this summer. So they're always looking, for ways to save money, and telling your contractor exactly how much you got ain't going to happen. So,
But if you're building if you're building a new home, you get a contingency money on. Okay, this is your money you're putting in for a bank loan or
yeah.
construction loan.
Yep.
So that's another deal too. That
Oh, yeah.
anything above that, and as builders, they'll say, okay, it's 10,000. I want you to do it for 2,000. And
Yeah.
then they pocket 6,000.
Yeah. And a lot of builders, especially on the commercial side, have told me, they personally told me, said, Eric, um, our profits come directly from change orders. Yeah. We go into possibly losing money on the initial cost estimate, but we know there's always going to be change orders. Every single project, there's change orders. And that's when, switching from, we'll use the example from brown mulch to red mulch. It doesn't cost that much more money, but there's going to be so much other stuff added to that color change in the mulch that the builder's going to make. They're going to make their profits from the change orders. So, which is unethical, which is, not the way to do business. But they go in as low bid to get these jobs, knowing that there's going to be several change orders that they'll be able to make that money up. And change orders get paid as soon as they're made. Like if a developer comes to the GC that's building the project and says, "Hey, we want to switch out this for that," the builder's going to be like, "All right, here's a change order. We need the money right now. You go ahead and write the check." So it can get a little hairy like that. Um, so the design process overview. This is the design part of it. Research and preparation is the first thing that we're going to do. It is basically your site inventory and analysis. Then we have our design. We're actually drawing the design. And we're doing these pretty pictures. We're doing these digital images. We're doing these videos walking through. I've seen AI actually do the walkthroughs of some of these designs where you can upload it and they'll create it and do the walkthrough, and you'll have a little MP4 video. Then there's the construction documentation. This is the pretty pictures, the pretty perspectives that's done in color and everything else that are put on paper for anybody, the layman's terms. Anybody in layman's terms can build this because they actually have the blueprints to do it. It's also going to include your specifications on the job site, which can be a nasty term when you ask the builder and say, "Hey, I need a copy of the specifications." Sometimes they don't want to give that to us because that is the one thing that they can hold over our head for any changes. They're like, no. But then our license states that as a landscape contractor, it is up to us to obtain every necessary information about the project to price the job correctly. So gets a little hairy there working for some of these builders.
If it's a contractor, why is it if they're withholding the information, why is that not illegal for the landscape contractor? Because for the banks and this is get a CO on a new construction that landscapers last. I mean, you got to have it or to get a loan, do a construction loan to a conventional loan.
Yeah. Well,
And we're last, and we got 10,000 damn vehicles in the driveway, and we bid this job not knowing there's 10,000 vehicles in the driveway.
oh yeah.
I mean, that's kind of BS to me. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done it a bunch, but it's not right.
Um, well,
You can't do anything about it
no. And
as a
if you were to
landscape
ask,
contractor.
you can ask the site super or, call the estimators in the office and be like, "Hey, I need to get a copy of the specs. I need it before I bid the job." A lot of times it'll be, in a digital format. It'll be some login website that you got to go to and you can open them up and print. When we used to do the, we subscribed to a service that would tell us every job, new construction permits that were pulled, that have a set of the blueprints, We could upload an estimate to every builder that's actually, bidding the job to be the GC. We can upload our estimates and everybody see it, each contractor. And I forget what is the name of that. The Dodge room, Dodge plan room, or the Dodge network. But it was a place that everywhere in North Carolina, South Carolina, it told you if there was a Burger King being built, or a Biscuitville, all of that would come up, and there would be the plans and the specifications. So, but back in the day when you had to go to the print store and actually print these blueprints, or go to the actual physical location of the Dodge room and do your takeoffs, it you wouldn't have those specifications. So, because they're telephone book thick, And,
I understand. I understand that, Eric. You're getting off on a too much of a. I mean, like layman's term. Not mean you're doing professional
I'm getting on a tangent.
comment. Yeah, you're getting on. Say this is it, and this is I, and but what I'm saying is the when you bid the job, you
Yes,
have a when you bid it on say a residential or
yes.
commercial,
Hmm.
is that you have the plan and
You
you're
have it.
expecting because the landscaper is the last one to go in to get the COs.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
And the bank comes in after the landscape because they have to approve to get the CO from the county.
Yep.
And so what I'm saying is okay, it's rained all week. Okay, the drywall man can't get here, and it goes on for like an extra month, and then the contractor, the building contractor, okay, we're past due, and then they put all the shit on you, and there's 10,000 trucks in the driveway.
Yeah.
So
Nope.
that's what I'm trying to explain is why are they not liable, and why don't we have a contingency plan in the law of landscape contractors? Hey, this is a law. It's not our fault. It's rained all week.
Yeah.
And
Well, we do
for
have
other,
our technical standards, which is on the board's website, that talks just about that. Like, planting trees, installing sod. And we're supposed to follow those technical standards as a landscape contractor. Problem is with these builders, they're on such tight deadlines that it doesn't matter for them. They're like, plant it in the mud. We don't care. Um, and it depends on which type of job. Like a bunch of the fast food restaurants we've done, and the gas stations, and um, the auto parts stores, they didn't care as long as we got the stuff in, and they were able to get their CO. They could care less if every tree or plant died afterwards. They're never turning the irrigation system on that we just put in. There are plenty of times that we put in an irrigation system on a commercial site. They never turn it on. Never. They just had to have it because the city that they built the store in requires that all new construction have irrigation. They require them to have it. They don't necessarily require them to run it. So many irrigation systems we put in, they'd padlock the meter. They just did not want to fool with it, but they had to have it to get that CO. But back to this construction documents. That's our planting plan. If we have a landscape lighting plan, if we did have an irrigation plan, it should be in the construction documentation phase. Our implementation is basically drive through early on, or the implementation. After we build it, then we go into that evaluation. But implementation, we're building it. The landscape contractor comes in, plants the trees, does the pavers, does the outdoor kitchen, all that. Then they pick up on maintenance. And one thing that I'm seeing in the new specifications, besides our soil remediation, they are all about cleaning out dirty brown infield areas and bringing in good dirt. You'll see in the specifications that landscape contractor with their final price to also include 1-year maintenance contract for the property. I know so many guys that don't read specs. They do their little job, and next thing you know, either the owners or the site supers calling saying, "Hey, where are you at?" Well, what do you mean? We finished that job 2 weeks ago. Yeah, the grass needs mowing. Well, that ain't my problem. Well, yeah, it is, because if you turn to page such and such in the specification, it says landscape contractor to include 1-year price of maintenance contract added to the install price of the job. And
And
so,
that's the law. I mean, because I would never take a job that included that
yeah,
unless I bidded the maintenance.
well, they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know because then you're adding price to the install, like that increases that project, but you didn't have a signed contract. They know that you haven't looked at the specifications.
So you're obligated by a landscape contractor license to maintain it for a year?
No, if it's in the specifications, the
So
design,
that needs to be highlighted and make damn sure that that's not in there.
yeah, and it'll state like this in the specification: landscape contractor responsible for 1-year maintenance contract to be included within the bottom dollar.
I got caught on that because it was $100 a month on a big CVS store, and I
Yeah,
got burnt. And I didn't. I mean, this was, good Lord, in 2010
yeah,
and or 11, 12, whatever. But I got smoked.
and ain't nothing fun about that, is it, my friend? That's the most expensive education you'll ever learn
Oh
is
gosh, I
quitting a
mean,
job.
I mean that was bad.
Yeah. And as a license holder, if we back out of our contract, then the board's going to step in and initiate our bond to finish the job. So, and then when you get a bond, enacted on you, you'll never work again. Like, because
And
that bond
it's
money is
not
going to
just
come
the
out your
bond.
hard.
Sorry to interrupt. It's not the bond. It's the owner of the building, which is
Yeah.
paying, the mortgage. So you're rear end too.
Yeah. Uh, But again, implementation is the build of the project. Maintenance is, the lawn care, the irrigation maintenance, tree and shrub maintenance, lawn care fertility apps. And then we have our evaluation. We're making sure if we are the designer, does the design still look good? Um, is anything happen? Is there any disease that's came into the plant material? They want to check all of this out. And like I said, it's good for some people, but other people, they might start thinking that, people are stepping on their toes. So,
Eric, is it like turf now that's certified turf versus like plant material is certified?
what do you mean?
Like turf grass is
Yeah, the
certified.
turf grass is certified, but um,
Why is
plants,
not plants not certified?
well, they are inspected by the North Carolina Nursery
But
Department
they
about,
don't have a tag on it like turf.
yeah, yeah, they probably won't. Um, I don't know. It's a different situation. Um,
It's called BS because we're liable as a
yeah,
landscape contractor.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Sorry to
And
interrupt your whole damn
oh,
class, and sorry for the other.
no, man, no, I
No,
love it.
you're good.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry for it.
no,
I mean, I've been through the ringer on this stuff. I mean,
exactly, dude. That's what it's about. Is bringing in your experience, your personal experience and knowledge from it. Um, you've gone through it, and I can almost promise you, you'd never go through it again, did you? You make one mistake, and you're like, "Wow, that hurt. That hurt the checkbook." We're gonna make sure that that never happens again. So, but so many guys don't read specs, because they're this thick, and they're just like, I'm gonna take a gamble on it, and not a good situation, man. So, I don't like some of them specs. Especially that they're bringing in city arborists and stuff like that, wanting you to remove 100% the wire baskets and, um, you know, cut around them perfectly. It's not my idea of a pretty landscape.
What at the end of my career, sorry, Eric, for is that I wanted to have a meeting with the builder contractor as commercial. We're talking about commercial and the landscape architect
Yeah.
and have a meeting, all three of us, and say, okay, this is what it is. I'm gonna sign off on it, and here's my after I got chosen for the estimate.
Yeah.
And so we had a verbal agreement and a handshake, and
Well, and when it comes to that, though, if we go back and we look at our North Carolina General Statutes 89D, what dollar amount do we have to have a written contract for? What is our dollar amount to enter a contract? You have to have a signed contract from both parties, both signatures, stating out what it is that you're going to do for them, and make that happen. So that as a landscape contractor, we are required to do that. Everything has to be written. And I'm sure, you can email it and all that stuff too, but it's nothing like printing it off your software that you use, a couple of copies, you're heading to their house to present the quote. I don't want to email anybody their quote unless it is a, $500 job or something like that.
but if you don't, well, my situation, my story is that I didn't sign it. I got accepted, but I didn't sign it until I met the commercial contractor that's building the CVS
Yeah.
and the landscape architect.
Okay.
So, and then sign it.
Yeah. Well, but had you started work?
No, sir, because I mean, you know as well as I do, you're bidding on this stuff way before they even break ground.
Yeah. It could be a year out. The
That's correct.
bids.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So,
sir.
and getting stuff pushed through, town hall, depending on what, municipality that you're in, it could be a nightmare. So,
Yes, sir. It's different from commercial to residential.
oh yeah. Yeah. Uh-oh. Well, we need to do a base sheet. Always like stating. Miss Smith calls. Hey, Eric, I'd like a landscape design. Yeah, you were referred by such and such down the street. We love what you did with their house. Can you make that happen here? Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna set up the initial meet, but I also want to take my base sheet with me. So I'm gonna go into our Forsyth County geodata. I'm gonna print out a copy of, a picture with their property lines. I'm gonna go ahead and blow it up and put it on either, 18 by 24 or 24 by 36. I love the 18 by 24 papers. It's just easier to keep up with and actually have in your hands, talking with a contractor or whatever. But I want to draw this base map. I want to have, um, there's the fence that, we thought we wanted. Um, but we're going to add everything that's existing there. This is site inventory. What is there? And then we're going to finish with our analysis after we complete this base sheet. But I show up at let's call them Mr. and Miss Smith. I show up at their house. Eric, we want the landscape design. Well, Miss Smith, what day can I come by and meet you? Well, let's meet Thursday at 4:00. My husband gets home a little earlier on Thursday, and we'd appreciate if you can come by then. Yes, ma'am. I'm going to go ahead and do this before I go to their house. Takes me 5 minutes to do this, to blow it up, draw it by hand. Ain't got to be perfect. It's just got to be, where's everything at? Then I take a whole little pack of colored pens, and I'm getting there 15 minutes early before I sat down with the Smiths at their kitchen table. And I'm taking notes. That is my inventory and analysis. And when I sat down with them, they're like, dude, you've spent all kinds of time in our property. And, basically I've given them 30 minutes, but I've made an impression with them that they're going to want to hire us, whether it's for design, whether it's for implementation or both, just because of our reputation. And so here is an example of site inventory and analysis. We catalog or inventory what's there and analyze it. This is our expertise evaluation of the property. We're going to note site location, the character of the surrounding neighborhood, zoning ordinances. We're going to have to look all that up. What are the building codes? Topography. I can't stand it when I don't see topography on a landscape design. I want to be able to see where the water flows. I can read contour lines and pinpoint where water goes. But a lot of people, a lot of designers, they won't do that. That's extra.
And where is it supposed to go?
Huh?
And where's the water supposed to go?
Yeah, exactly. But I want to see my topo lines. I want to be able to do that. Drainage, soil, vegetation, the climate, the utilities, and most importantly, the views. Clients don't realize, they may not realize, hey, if we cut down these nasty looking pine trees, you could have a beautiful view of Pilot Mountain, downtown Winston-Salem, downtown Greensboro, wherever it's at. If we just convince them, hey, let's take down these nasty trees. But that is site inventory and analysis. And so the design diagrams, we're doing our bubble diagrams. They're conceptual. They are free-handed. And it's basically, we're just showing the client the areas of their property where we're going to have the outdoor kitchen. Well, it needs to be close to the indoor kitchen. Well, our outdoor entertainment needs to be, close to either some type of sitting room inside. You just want everything kind of to mimic what's inside with these outdoor rooms. Then we move into preliminary design. It is basically, we're not picking out plant material. We're not doing anything like that. This is strictly black and white drawing. We've got our plants on there. We haven't named them. We're basically designing for the size of the plant material and the size of our patio, outdoor kitchen areas, or whatnot. We do focus on the design principles in the general design. We're going to talk form composition and spatial composition. We're at least taking those into consideration, and then we pick out our plant materials and we get real specific with our master plan. Now here's form composition. Everybody's kind of, all right, so what do we mean by there? We got all this curvilinear back here matching with the trees, but we also are having some type of balance. It's not symmetrical, but it is asymmetrical. It's kind of heavy on one side, but we are still making it feel balanced. Let's go back. It's one. Okay. Yeah, we're good. And then we have our preliminary example. Converts the loose freehand diagram symbols of the functional diagram to more specific shapes and graphic symbols and collectively depict the character and material of the proposed outdoor rooms and design elements. Another master plan example, it's refinement of the preliminary. We have picked out plants. We've picked out, what type of pavers they want to go back here with. Construction docks, the most important part of the design when it comes to landscape contractors. You got to have your layout plan. These are going to be your horizontal dimensions. Your grading plan identifies existing and proposed elevations of the ground plane. And what I just said, like no contours, drives me absolutely insane. Planting plan shows specific plants and their locations. Construction details communicate how much portions of the design are to be built. And I don't want to, let's see. Here is a layout plan example. We've got radius. We're verifying that. So we're figuring out, how far this corner of, like, if that is like a seat wall maybe up on top, you got, people coming there in and out. but it's going to show all of our dimensions. That is the most concerning part. Where does the retaining wall start? Where does the patio start? Now here's grading plan. These are going to be our spot elevations. We're going to start with finished floor elevation. We always need to know that, but I never see this on a plan. I never see these spot elevations on any construction documents that we're getting for these residential landscape architects. We're not. So how do we build it? How do we know how tall, if there is going to be a retaining wall? You know, how much dirt is it going to hold behind it? Well, we got to know these spot elevations. Planting plan, it's going to have our plants. We're going to label them out, whether it's either you know, in a plant key, or if we're actually going to be drawing lines and actually writing out, you know, Lagostromia indica. All right, implementation, we have construction and installation. Construction is, you know, going in with the hardscapes and the outdoor kitchen stuff, and then installation is our plant material all the way down to turf grass and mulch. And then maintenance, when we prepare this schedule, how much irrigation is it getting? When do we fertilize it? What are we going to do for weed control? How many mowings a year? What about painting and staining some of the pergolas and wood structures that we've built on site? And then possibly having to replace old plants or even parts of structures even further down the road. When is that maintenance schedule going to tell us to actually do an in-depth study and figure out what needs to be done or replaced? Evaluation. And throughout years of use, the design should be evaluated. How does it appear? How does it function? You know, I always give an example. We've got a shopping center close to us that there's a restaurant there we eat, but it's so hard to get to that restaurant just because the way the LA laid out the parking. You should be able to see real quickly where my entrances and exits are instead of having to drive around. What portions of the design are easy or difficult to maintain? And then all of the plant materials holding up well? How has the pavement held up? And then are there any problems with the wood structures? And guys, a lot of this stuff is just simple wear and tear. You know, wood structures don't like rain. They don't like snow staying on them. You got asphalt pavement, you know, it gets hot during you know, the summer months. And then, you know, anybody driving on it or walking on it that could chip it off or whatever. You just got to check these issues every so often. And then the design process involves both rational and intuitive judgments and skills. It is essential that the inexperienced designer proceed thoughtfully through all the necessary steps. And then this is the conclusion. Define the design process and explain why it is critical in creating the design solutions. Identify the 6 major phases. Name the 6 steps of the research and preparation phase of the design process, and identify the activities that occur at each phase. Talk about what are the phases of the design phase. Same thing with preliminary design, how those are passed on to whoever's doing the construction drawings. And then identify 2 reasons for preparing construction documents for a residential landscape. Number 1 reason is the client has contractors comparing apples to apples. Then list the 2 primary steps of the implementation phase of the design process and the activities that occur in each step, and identify 4 common activities that occur during the maintenance phase of the design process. And then last but not least, we identified key questions to ask during the evaluation phase of the design process.
Eric the Turf Teacher Jones. Oh, yeah! Teaching you life lessons, business strategies, and leadership.